L plus ratio plus stupid plus blood sucks plus you suck plus every one of you sucks plus I love Yuji more. Thank you to our $5 patrons, Strawbones, Redwolf4765, Midnight Gemlord, and Artgoon555. Now, before we hop into this breakdown / review of chapter 202, I am bored right now, of Jujutsu Kaisen. Please, if you're to leave your own thoughts on the chapter in the comment section down below, leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure you hit that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where you can support for as low as $1 a month to get these exclusive videos, early content, and more. Now, let's hop into the review. What's up, guys? I got the pencil here, and wow. You know, wow. We like just got introduced to Angel 2 chapters ago. Like, everything was going well. Like, we were really having a good old time. We were really milli rocking on any block, and now we're doing this? That's crazy. And I'm loving it. So let's hop right into the chapter itself. So we open up, and we do get to see that we're having a certain discussion, if you will, a certain diatribe, a certain dialogue between two individuals. Oh, and by the way, the chapter is in fact called Blood and Oil. So, hallelujah. Hallelujah. Gave us a chapter title. But with that being the case, we're talking about something interesting, the star plasma vessels. And considering where our last chapter ended off, yeah, that's a little bit strange. We were with the big elephant boy. AKA, for some reason, we're changing scenery, if you will. We're no longer talking about hunting sorcerers, we're talking about possessing people. Kind of similar, but not the same. And we find out that the star plasma vessels aren't necessarily as unique as we thought they were. Sure, Riko Amanai was one of them, but that doesn't mean she was the only one. Because one person, the person who's actually talking about star plasma vessels, was also, in fact, a star plasma vessel. And we find out that apparently there were other vessels, they just weren't as good of a quality or didn't have as much potential as Amanai Riko. Which means that, I don't know, because we don't actually get a clarification on that. But what that could hypothetically mean is that if a lower quality star plasma vessel were to be used, they wouldn't last as long, and Tengen would have to re-up a lot quicker than he usually would have. Because assumedly the whole potential thing doesn't necessarily matter. Amanai's whole thing was that she was literally going to cease existing the moment she fused with Tengen, because Tengen would her ego and her body and like everything. Like there simply wouldn't be anything left of Riko Amanai. But I'm assuming her body structure would allow Tengen to exist as a human longer. Their immortality technique would allow him to stay a little bit more humanoid for a bit longer than normal due to the quality of her vessel in comparison to other star plasma vessels. And with that being the case, it kind of makes you wonder why they didn't have like multiple of these bad boys prepped. Like, even if it would last a shorter time, which is just a theory, by the way, if there really were other vessels, Tengen, you stupid head, like, why wouldn't you tell us and get all the possible vessels just lined up? I genuinely don't know. It seems as almost if that Tengen wanted to evolve, because putting your chances on one when there was multiple different opportunities seems a little bit suspicious, if you ask me. A little bit suspicious. But obviously, something strange is here, right? Like, who's talking about star plasma vessels? Who was a star plasma vessel? Where are we right now? If we were just talking about the Americas, and the last chapter ended with our gang running through the streets. We are with Yuki Sakuma and Tengen themselves. And Yuki ends up asking the same question that I asked, like, why take such a risk and reject the merger? And we see that Tengen is like, well, if we're being technical, if we're being real, if we're espousing virtues, if we will, I didn't really reject it so much as I kind of just took the L. Like, being real with you, merging with a star plasma vessel would kind of just set me back to the beginning and halt whatever evolution I go through. So, I mean, like, reject, ignore, they're kind of the same thing here. It'd be like that when it'd be like that sometimes. Honestly, with the fact that there's no guarantee that I would become an issue anyway, I didn't really care. And we see that Tengen goes on to further explain that with the merger failing, it would obviously be a problem, but it wouldn't be so large a problem that Tengen would actually have to care, because they could keep some form of their ego, some form of rationality, and not just become a mindless, cursed mass of energy with all the barriers due to a barrier they have set up here. And notably the barrier that Suki and, I combined her names, Yuki and Tengen are in right now seems to be like a little house. Like they have a TV, they have a kettle. Well, I'm not sure what the TV is. That's just like seemingly an oven stove thing. They have peaches. Like they're living a good life. And we see that Tengen kind of just viewed their evolution as something that was going to come to pass anyway. Like, whatever. It'd be like that, wouldn't it be like that sometimes? It'd be like that. So I'm just going to let it slide. And I'm not going to lie, Tengen has been an inherently suspicious character ever since we've been introduced to their idea. Not even the character themselves. Like when we saw the Thumb Man, as Chosa goes on to call him, when we saw the Thumb Man for the first time, he was already a little bit sussy just because of the way he looked. And I'm sorry. I know it's bad. I know it's wrong. But tell me, if you were to meet Tengen in real life, would you be automatically trusting of him? You tell me that. If you would be, then I'm sorry. But if you wouldn't be, because you have some common sense, then I'm not sorry. But with that being the case, even before that, the whole idea that he has to absorb people and like slurp away their consciousness and they're immortal and the barriers enhance, because like it just felt off. Like the motivations of someone like this makes you wonder, well, if you've been around for so long, what was cursed energy like before you started enhancing it? Like, especially considering while you're really good at barrier techniques, obviously that's nice, any dude can perform barrier techniques. Even someone like Ijichi, a general manager, can pull off barrier techniques. So what's really your point? What's really your game here? And I feel like it wasn't so much that Tengen was like, oh, it'd be like that, wouldn't it be like that sometimes? He wanted to find out what it was like. They wanted to figure out, hey, wait a second, I could evolve. What does evolution look like? Interesting. I wonder. Because like, what would Tengen gain from allowing themselves to evolve? Like, maybe I'm seriously wondering about the whole situation. I want to know if it really was consensual for Tengen to be put at this point, or if it's something like if there's some binding vow put in place by Tengen 1,000 years ago or something like that that's keeping them here. Because if they were happy to just make the barriers and maintain them, there's no reason to ever reject a merger and to be interested in evolving. But if you know that the only reason you're bound here is because you keep getting put in mergers that keep you in a human state that prevent you from evolving and transcending this plane, then maybe a little bit of evolution goes a long way. I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued to see what Tengen's whole end goal is, because it seems mighty mysterious if you were to ask me. And we see Yuki, she just pours herself something to drink. She takes a whole deep, long sip, and she burps, and she's like, nah, level with me, dog. You've got to be joking. You've got to be fibbing. You got to be tickling my ribs right now, bro. Making children bear the weight of karma and using their history is what you call rational. And when you fail, you can just say, well, it was okay not to merge. Yeah, it really puts Tengen into question. Like, how many people were star plasma vessels? Assumedly, let's just say Tengen lived, like, let's say all top quality star plasma vessels lived the longest, like most prime human lifespan. Let's say just 100 years, not even a generation. You more realistically, I would assume it'd be generation by generation. Let's just say 100 years. Say Tengen goes back only 1,000 years, but I think it's actually more than that. With that being the case, 10 innocent people were sacrificed for someone who could just evolve anyway. Like, if it was really no problem or a problem that could be handled, why sacrifice so many innocents? What is rational about that? There has to be some other reason before that. And we see that Tengen doesn't necessarily have an answer. And Yuki says, not gonna lie, if this is your rationale, if this is what you call rationality, then you might as well just call me Buddha, like legitimately, because it makes the same amount of sense. Why sacrifice when you don't have to? Why undergo this when you didn't need to? And ironically enough, Tengen is a woman. I think I referred to them as he a couple times. My apologies, she. Though admittedly they say gender doesn't matter to them anymore. But I can't wait for all the fan artists to go wild with their Mommy Tengen fan art. So go, run into the world, pick up your pens and pencils and sheets of paper or your digital devices. Run free. I expect it to be on blank, 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 dot blank by the end of the day. But regardless, we do get to see that with this being the case, the general indifference that Tengen has sort of makes her feel like, it's really whatever. Like, if they weren't against her and were actually safeguarding her, I would have supported them. I would have been on their side. However, they didn't, and the Star Religious group wanted them gone, so I didn't care, and they let her go. So it really means nothing to me. Like, Tengen very much seems like either A, a person with a lot of patience and a very long-term plan, or B, sort of just a fixture of the world. Like, I don't think a mountain complains when you drill into it. Like, you can either leave it alone or you could do something to it so it can be usable. So I feel like Tengen sort of at that point in their mortality, if we're going to assume they are not just evil and partner with Kenjaku or something like that. Like, there are ways that this could still 100%, 1,000,000% make it so that Tengen is just a person who happened to be put in a really rough situation. However, I even doubt that more just because we know that apparently Kenjaku, the Six Eyes, and Tengen themselves are all tied into each other. There is some sort of destiny there. So, I'm very intrigued. Something tells me there's a specific reason other than just being Toji, right? Like, the main reason we constantly get for, oh yeah, Tengen's evolving, oh yeah, the Star Plasma Vessel being was unprecedented, all that. I know it's because Toji had no cursed energy and he was a weird anomaly that allowed for literally everything to happen. But even with that being the case, it still leaves Tengen in this really weird, shady spot in terms of what their alignment is, what they care about, and what they view the world as. And I like it. The mystery behind Tengen is very, very good right now. And I'm intrigued, considering how many mysteries that JJK has. And interestingly enough, I suppose, as a Star Plasma Vessel herself, she can actually hear the voices inside of Tengen. All the previous Star Plasma Vessels exist, yet don't exist. Because Riko Amina was going to lose her sense of sight. I don't know. This is very weird. This is a weird point to touch on. Like, apparently Tengen has I'm not sure what these voices are, what they're saying. Like, are they just remnants of their personalities, the previous Star Plasma Vessels, or are they just the actual people in there? I honestly have no idea. It seems very, very strange, for lack of a better term. It seems strange. And the thing is, Yuki doesn't even tell us what they're saying. Because, according to Tengen, they're like, hey, I can't hear them, or rather, there's no way I can hear them. After all, once the merger completes, they become me. What are they saying? So are they you, or are they not you? Like, are they just trapped for eternity inside your subconscious, and you just can't hear them? But other people can't, like, I'm assuming Yuki can only hear them because she's a Star Plasma Vessel. And there's something about being a Star Plasma Vessel that gives you special juicy juices that allow you to hear previous Star Plasma Vessels. But what do they say? If they really just become you, then they wouldn't have voices. But they do have voices because they aren't fully... Tengen, I'm going to need you to take it step by step. You're going to need to take it slow and break it down for me, all right? Because I'm a little bit lost. I'm a little bit confused. However, we see that Yuki isn't even going to help us as the reader because she's not even going to tell us. Like, we don't even get a thought bubble on what she actually hears. Because when Tengen asks, what are they saying? She's like, oh, why would I tell you? Like, why not? I don't know. I mean, like, unless they're begging for help or telling Yuki very vital information, I don't necessarily see the issue about being told what's going on in the tissue. That is Tengen's... Does Tengen have brain tissue anymore? Like, when they say evolution, like, how much of Tengen is actually there? Or the human sorcerer that was Tengen? Because, like, now they have 4 eyes. Do they have double brains, too? They only have 1 nose. I don't know. Their biology is weird. Though, with that being the case, it apparently... This is so weird. Yuki says the reason that they aren't going to tell Tengen what the voices are saying is because she's just saying... She believes that Tengen would just justify it in terms of like, oh, well, you know, it had to be done, blah, blah, blah. Like, essentially, she says it doesn't matter what they're saying because it's not like you're going to care. But, like, why would why would he ask, or she, I'm sorry, why would Tengen ask if she didn't care what they were saying? I don't know. This is so weird. This whole communication and conversation, like, I feel like we jumped in and missed a whole ton of context. And I'm not saying that JJK hasn't done this before. It loves to do it all the time, but darn does it feel weird. And the thing is, we see that apparently the reason that they're like this is just because of how they want to feel. Like, apparently they're supposed to be viewed as this enlightened figure, right? Like, it's Master Tengen, the overseer of the Jujutsu world and Jujutsu reality. Thusly, it doesn't necessarily matter to them, I guess. I don't know. This whole first couple pages is a very strange interaction. And we see Yuki end it off with saying, I won't make it easy for you. And Tengen just gets double ellipses. Like, fine, whatever. I'm not going to press you on it. And we see that apparently Yuki describes that this is her responsibility as a former Star Plasma vessel. What does that mean? Did you just say no? Is that what happened? Did you simply just say no to becoming a Star Plasma vessel and it happened? That worked? Like, I know Tengen can't merge with one now, which is why you're probably fine to sit right across from her. But still, in actuality, like, what was there a subprime like, what is going on? Why do you mean former? Are you suddenly lose the Star Plasma vessel properties? Were you let out of Tengen? What are you, Yuki? Like, legitimately, what was initially just a concept that allowed us to be like, oh, that's how Tengen stayed human, is now way more complicated and way more stupid. And something tells me we're not going to get an answer to this, because a certain someone shows up and just ruins everything. Because as Tengen goes on to say, I would have liked, bada bing, bada boom, they declare, I would have liked to have talked to you a little longer. And we see through this weird, massive, belly button having it, I can't do pig Latin, but this weird teddy bear thing, some barrier shatters. And coming on through on November 16th at 12 a.m. above the Tomb of the Star is Kenjaku. And, like, once again, I do believe that Tengen sort of just let this happen. This was all planned. Like, they were going to communicate with Kenjaku and allow Kenjaku in anyways, because why would you know that? Like, why would you know, oh, I wish I could have talked with you longer? And I don't know, it seems like you guys are just having a dead-end conversation anyway, so. So much is weird about that interaction. However, we leap to the real, what at least I view as the real meat of the chapter. Obviously, Kenjaku arriving above the Tomb of the Star is, bad. And we see that the moment Kenjaku arrives, they spot somebody, and they're like, oh, you've already outlived your usefulness and can no longer hold my interest. So L plus ratio, plus you're stupid, plus you're ugly, plus I loved your other brothers more, plus die. And obviously, Kenjaku's talking to the first original prodigal son, Choso. And Choso is standing, vibing, in front of I believe a sakura tree? Hold on, let me look that up. Let me double check. Yep, Choso is posted up right underneath a cherry blossom tree. And, you know what that means, right? Choso's gonna, like, if you didn't know, and, like, I only know this because I've watched a million analysis videos. I still have yet to study Japan, despite how many Japanese stories I break down and go on to analyze. So that's definitely my fault. But yeah, cherry blossoms usually mean death. Because they mean I forget the exact reason behind it, but I know they mean death. And the person standing in front of a tree is Choso. And, you see, I like Choso now. So the fact that I know he's about to get put in the finest of packs, the juiciest, most wettest, and thickest of packs, definitely has me a little bit sad, I'm not gonna lie. However, we do get to see that Choso doesn't actually seem all through threatened. Like, just like, I'm not sure if this counts as interest, but I'm just vibing. I'm just chilling here. And honestly, leveling with you real quick, I have this strange urge to just want to get you up out of here. And, like, he was kamo at the time. He was a male. So Kenjaku was a male at the time. So I guess this is a long-awaited father-son reunion, where both just don't care about each other and would actually prefer if the other just didn't exist. To the point where, when pressed about the idea, or offered the idea that their first son kind of wants to get him up out of here, Kenjaku's like, yeah, okay, whatever. L plus I'm sorry. Let me stop that. But he's like, where's Tengen? Let's not play any games. I came here to see the big evolved mama, so I can curse, manipulate, transfigurate, and do my darn thing. And we see that Choso's like, you know why. You know he's not here. Or she's not here. Because that talking thumb does not want to see you. Pretty much, I can assume you're not very well liked. And something that I'm wondering right now is who has the prison realm? Like the front of it. Because we know for some reason Tengen has the back. But like, who, in fact, is on the prison realm right now? Like, who holds it? Because if it's Kenjaku, like, rob him. I mean, I get it. It's not that simple, but I wonder if he's really in those robes just carrying around Gojo. If so, that'd be kind of funny. But I'm assuming Ume has it. For some reason. I don't know why. I just don't think that Tengen would... No, not Tengen. I don't think Kenjaku would go out of their way and bring something as viable and as important as the prison realm just, like, around in their pocket. It seems very, very strange. We know this is the modern day. Like, this isn't back when they were initially talking to the military and they were, like, months in the past before Gojo was even sealed. No, this is November 16th. So, something's up. And we see... And with that being the case... Kenjaku's like, well, they don't want to see me just yet. I guess it does make sense to send out some fodder, some useless, some doodle head dum-dum bubblegum built site stuff. Go ahead, do your best. The calling game already served its purpose. The preparations for the merger of all non-sources in Japan have ended. So, try me, kiddo. Try me, kiddo. And like, admittedly, to this day, I don't think I could beat that Papa with a pencil. Like if we were to actually like sit down, or not sit down, I suppose we'd have to stand up. But if we were to stance up and throw hands, I don't think I would be able to beat him. And like, unless my dad's hiding something from me, he's not a sorcerer with like thousands upon thousands of years of experience, literally who knows how many curse techniques, and possibly millions, if not billions of curses right at his disposal. So Choso, I respect the hustle, bro. I really do. But maybe you should just walk away. Like, if he can't immediately find Tengen, just leave. Because I want you to see Yuji again. I do not want Yuji to stumble across your body. Because please, the boy doesn't deserve that. However, it would be interesting. I mean, it'd be impossible, though, because they need vessels. That's the only thing. It would have been interesting if, like, it wasn't just Choso waiting here, but it was all the death paintings. Like, if all of them were here and, like, Choso had gone out of his way to revive them all as almost a final force against Kenjaku, that would have been interesting. But yeah, I don't think anyone really believes that Kenjaku, right now, would really have any problem with Choso. Bro. Like, legitimately. I don't know what... I definitely think, once again, this sort of plays into the idea that Tengen knew this was going to happen, and they're down with it, because there's no way on Earth they really believe that a cursed spirit, or at least something that's partially cursed spirit, would do good against holding off the guy with the cursed spirit manipulation technique. Like, really? Really? It sounded like bait, rather. It sounded like bait. I may have to do... What if Choso joined the Killing Games? However, we do get to see that with this information, Choso's like, wait a second. If it's already done, already served its purpose, but didn't they, like, just start? Like, the game isn't supposed to be over yet. Are Yuji and the others okay? He even sweat drops. And we see, and apparently Kenjaku's like, well, level you real quick. Even if everyone else is gone, and even if you hypothetically get gone, it's kind of my win anyway. Because, you know, all I need to do is touch Tengi Boy, or Tengi Male. And with that being the case, that's a GG. Because I have Idle Transfiguration. I could one-shot you right now. However, you know, I'm in a good mood, son. I like your style. I like your intent. I like the ideas you bring to the table. So while I wait and hack this barrier just a little bit more, just a tiny little bit more, so I can get closer to that girthy old Tengi boy. Tengi girl, I'm sorry. I keep messing up. I'm so used to thinking of Tengen as like an old man sage, kind of like Yuki does. So I keep messing up their gender. But with that being the case, Kenjaku's manipulating the realm to sort of show off a preview of what's to come. One possible conclusion to this affair, as he puts it. And we see that Tengen goes on to reiterate, not Tengen, I keep messing up the names. Kenjaku goes on to reiterate that In Shibuya, Tsukumo Yuki explained that by merging with Tengen, which I prefer to call optimizing curse energy, means becoming a sorcerer. In essence, that's what that truly means. But honestly, if you were to ask me, that's just a step before the merger. A verification process from the killing game, essentially. I've said before that unlike her, I want a world that isn't without cursed spirits. But I was surprised when she worried about Japanese being used as cursed energy resources. Or rather, it made me happy. The way she thinks is, ironically enough, close to my own. Anyway, sorry, I've gotten on topic. And not only this is, I guess this just comes down to the fact that you can make barriers and innate domains anything, especially if you're a barrier master like Tengen and or Kenjaku, because they're literally sitting in a movie theater watching previous panels. Like, I'm very interested to see how Mappa handles this one once they finally get to this point in like 3 years, because, I don't know, it's kind of interesting to see what this whole debacle is all about, and what we're all getting down to real and sticky with this whole explanation that Kenjaku is giving here. And with the idea that the culling game sort of acts as like a vetting process for hypothetical sorcerers, it really does fit into the old definition for it, like the evolution and revolution of cursed energy is what the culling game is all about. But if so many people are slaughtered during it, I'm still a little bit confused on that. And we see that apparently, from the beginning, originally, Kenjaku worked alongside sorcerers, even while considering the potential of cursed spirits. So he always had high hopes for humans, but he wasn't afraid to block out or include the cursed spirits, the monsters, the beasts, and that sort of led to people like Choso. And hypothetically, if the cursed spirits, instead of cursed humans, aka sorcerers, were used, maybe if they were distilled and purified and enhanced by the barrier, then maybe a new form of cursed energy could be born. Maybe something that's new and creative, instead of the traditional cursed energy that they're used to, one born of emotion. And with that being the case, he was very interested to see the combination of both human and curse at a high level, and that's where the death paintings came in. And he honestly apparently had high hopes for the half-breeds, the hybrids that he called Choso and his kin. However, apparently they ended up being a little bit too basic for his expectations. They still had the original cursed energy, except it just happened to have some sort of curse-like properties. The whole idea that Choso can never run out of blood because he can keep replacing his blood with cursed energy. Sure, that's a nice perk, but that's not what Kenjaku was looking for. It seemed just a bit too ordinary, and it sounds almost like a fake, low-grade, low-quality version of the Six Eyes. Sure, you have high amounts of things for your technique to keep functioning, but we can work around that by just getting more cursed energy and or optimizing yourself better. That's not new. And we see that Choso, he gets a little bit nettled. He gets a little bit annoyed. He's like, hey, level with me real quick. Or let me level with you. If you talk about my little brothers again, I'll slaughter you without waiting for the slideshow to end. And ironically enough, Kenjaku does take that seriously. Like, once again, I don't think Kenjaku is in any danger here. Like, even against Yuki, I don't think she has anything in her kit that really makes me believe she could win the 1v1, which will really be like a 1v1,000,000 against Kenjaku. If what he showed against Yuji was a fraction or anything of what he could really do with high-level curse techniques, I really don't think Yuki stands a chance. But with this being the case, it's interesting how Kenjaku sort of humors his son. Once again, it does, I don't know, it reminds me of a relationship with my father, right? Like that Papa with the pencil, he would definitely just humor me. Like, I wouldn't ever make threats like Choso did against him, right? But if I ever said something like, oh yeah, whatever, Dad, he's like, oh, okay, I'll let that slide. I want to smack you for that, but I'll let that slide. Like, I don't know. This definitely feels like a father and a son communicating. Ironically enough, despite the differences and the special circumstances here being absolutely insane. And we see that apparently what Kenjaku expects, right, with the idea that Tengen would be a natural half-breed, something more like a cursed spirit and human hybrid without any, like, intermingling, which is essentially what happened with the half-breeds, which are the death paintings, non-sorcerers merging with Tengen since he became more than a cursed spirit, would inherently have this new cursed energy, since he would be a natural hybrid between human and cursed spirit. And then, of course, you staple that new hybrid energy on top of humans, and you actually get this new level of cursed energy. It's pretty interesting. And Kenjaku theorizes that it'll become a cursed spirit bearing cursed energy of 100 million people. Maybe it'll be like an Uzumaki and capable of extracting something too. So essentially what would happen if this mass merger were to go on is not just a new level of cursed energy, but on top of that, it would just create one massive being. Because by overlapping everyone with Tengen, in the same way that Tengen is sort of a mass of beings right now due to absorbing the star plasma vessels, as mentioned earlier, the voices and consciousnesses are still viable. They're still there. You can still hear them, apparently, if you're a star plasma vessel yourself. But with that being the case, you would still be, quote-unquote, Tengen. You would still be one. The lead personality, I suppose, would still be overruling and controlling this massive, gigantic cursed spirit. This embodiment of cursed energy. And the interesting thing is I think the reason Kenjaku wanted not just non-sorcerers there, in terms of just Japanese people, he also wanted all kinds of people from worldwide, Mr. Worldwide, if you will, is because they would even produce more complicated amounts of cursed energy and maybe a new level of cursed creation based on how he sees the people interacting with Tengen already. As obviously the more people that could act as fuel to this massive new cursed energy spirit, the better, in terms of the size and the ability. And considering, once again, Tengen has become more like cursed spirit rather than something different, and he's sort of a natural hybrid between human and cursed spirit, then you fuse that hybrid with all other people, Kenjaku could still control it with cursed spirit manipulation. It wouldn't have a master at that point. All he'd have to do is beat it. Assumedly, if that. Though it does make me wonder what Kenjaku really does have in his kit that would make him think that he could beat that. Because he says it'll become a cursed spirit bearing the cursed energy of 100 million people. Like, I know Rika supposedly had boundless cursed energy in her initial appearance. I know Sukuna has insane amounts of cursed energy as well. And obviously Gojo and Yuta are two beings with extremely high amounts of cursed energy. But 100 million people? And that's before any external mergers from like all the different people who are invading Japan right now. Like, how exactly are you planning to beat that? Maybe there's the hope that it'll just be a wild, ravaging beast because Tengen can't merge and understand that many consciousnesses at once and suppress them because there's no space in between like there were with the star plasma vessels. But even still, a wild beast of that caliber is going to be kind of hard to turn into a nice little consumption orb. I don't know. But we do get to see that this hypothetical visual that Kenjaku has is massive. And ironically enough, it sort of looks like it has the head of Rika, like specifically the round bulbous head, the teeth, the mouth, and the flaring hairs coming out behind it. But then it has this sort of centipede-esque appearance where it reaches back through buildings. And it's massive and it's disgusting. And essentially, Kenjaku is theorizing all this. He genuinely doesn't know what's going to happen. He even says, right now, I feel like a kid holding a crayon in front of a blank piece of paper. Like, he has no idea what he's really going to create. He just wants to create it. And with that being the case, it definitely reminds me of a certain someone before they got retconned. And that's Xehanort. I still remember loving Xehanort. And I like him now, too. It's just a little bit less. But I remember loving Xehanort because when he was asked, like, yo, what's your end goal? What are you going to do when you summon the Keyblade and cause a Keyblade War? And Xehanort's original motivation was like, I honestly cannot tell you. And that's what excites me the most. I'm just trying to see it. I'm just trying to figure out what would happen. I want to see it. I want to hold it in my hands. Like, I don't know. For some reason, the whole mad scientist motivation of just like, I'm doing it for the lulz because I want to see what it's like. I don't know. I love those kind of motivations. And Choso even should have asked him, like, yo, dog. 1, that's nasty. 2, how'd you do that? And 3, what exactly do you want? And Kenjaku is hilarious, right? Because he has amazing expressions like, did you not understand anything I just said? I even gave you visuals. And Choso's like, no. I'm asking you, what do you get from this? What is it that motivates you? And Kenjaku goes on and gives the motivation that Xehanort had. I'm fascinated. I'm intrigued. I think it'll just be cool. I don't know for sure until it'll happen, though. On top of that, if the accumulated cursed energy of 100 million people is just a laughable clown face, then what would you do? I know I'd laugh. And we see that Choso has decided that I'm done with these games. I'm piercing you with some blood. And that is where the chapter ends. Notably, this chapter does sort of just... This is one of the rare times where I feel like this is a chapter that's going to be better in retrospect. At least for the first part of it. Because actually, now that I think about it, as a whole, with the ideas that are mentioned about how the Star Plasma Vessel works, how Tengen works, and how the multiple consciousnesses within Tengen works, and how Kenjaku's plan ties into it, this chapter works a lot. At first, upon an initial read-through, and even as you could tell by my earlier thoughts during this very review, it felt a little bit strange, a little bit off-brand, like, what are we doing here? Like what's transpiring? What's going down? In terms of talking about the Star Plasma Vessel and how it ties in with the idea that Kenjaku plans to create this massive, insane cursed spirit of 100 million people. It makes sense. Because we would understand how this thing would hypothetically operate based on the rules established about the Star Plasma Vessel and Tengen previously. So by having that explained more so here in this chapter, not only are we given an out to how this thing would possibly function, but we're also given an out on how to hypothetically stop it, or why it wouldn't work. Because obviously 100 billion people is more than, like, who knows, the 20 people that were Star Plasma Vessels beforehand. The only thing that is up in the air, it makes me wonder more and more, and I don't think it's a clear answer to this chapter or a clear reason, is Yuki being a form of Star Plasma Vessel and what that means. I generally don't know. It makes me wonder how many Star Plasma Vessels still exist out there in the world if Yuki's just one just wandering around vibing. However, this chapter is really, really good. I think the main thing that I enjoy about this chapter overall, though, is Kenjaku. Kenjaku is so... It's weird. I'm going to make a weird comparison. Kenjaku reminds me of Kisuke Urahara from Bleach, not Aizen. And I weirdly enough, because I know a lot of people have made comparisons of Kenjaku to Aizen before, but I would say Aizen works a whole lot more for a blank parallel. I don't want to spoil Black Clover, but there's a character in Black Clover that I think Aizen works much better as an analog for, or is much better as an Aizen analog. But the reason I say Kenjaku reminds me more of Kisuke is Kisuke and honestly Mayuri. It's that scientific interest, that willingness to do anything just to go further, the willingness to experiment, the willingness to develop, the willingness to evolve. All that there reminds me a lot more of a certain mad scientist and his mad scientist friend than the master planner. And you can see it. Kenjaku really feels like someone who's just passionate about what they do. And sure, what they do is very, very evil and has led to the suffering and slaughter of who knows how many, but still, it's kind of interesting. I don't know. It leaves me really enjoying Kenjaku more and more as a character outside of just a central antagonist. Because admittedly, for the longest time, Kenjaku has sort of just been like, I'm here, I'm evil, and you're going to have to deal with it. And while that has been fine, this new personality, this new motivation, this sort of idea of, hey, I'm doing it because I can. I love it. I love it. It gives me a new hope and a new interest within Kenjaku. And it makes me really want to see more and more of him as really a person. I'm not so much interested in his motivations as we have them. Supposedly. I still think there could be more complex stuff behind it. But in terms of just Kenjaku being on panel, Kenjaku being interesting to watch, Kenjaku being interested to interact with, yeah, my interest has spiked a whole lot. However, that's what I think. Please tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure that notification wants to miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below, including for as low as $1 a month, because this is videos, early content, and more. Now, thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Back on the Pencil, writing off.